They told me the night shift would be simple. Keep the coffee hot, keep the floor clean, and keep your mouth shut about the back door after 1:13 a.m. That last part wasn't in the corporate manual. It was written in faded Sharpie on a grease-stained index card taped inside the register drawer. I read it my first night, laughed, then left it where it was, the way new hires leave prayer cards where veterans keep them. By week 2, I had memorized every line. By week 3, I broke one. Marlene trained me. She's the kind of woman who smokes out back without lighting a bug candle and somehow never gets bit. She handed me the keys, showed me where we keep the mop water tablets, then pointed to the index card like it was sacrosanct. Our corporate rules live in a laminated binder. The real ones live on that card, she said. Corporate says greet every customer. The card says do not greet the man who calls you kiddo after midnight because he is not a customer. Corporate says lock the bathroom at 2. The card says never lock the bathroom at 2. If the door's closed on its own, you prop it open and let the fan run and you don't look in the mirror. She didn't say it to scare me. She said it the way you tell a new ranger where the false summit is so their lungs don't quit when the real climb starts. She said one more thing that stuck. Every rule is about a pattern. Something here likes patterns. Break them before they break you. If a car loops the lot 3 times without parking, you put on the coffee grinder even if no one needs beans ground. If the wind dies at the pumps and the flag keeps snapping, you count prime numbers under your breath and stack the 5-cent lighters until the flag stops. Little rituals, stupid and human, to ruin someone else's rhythm. It was simple until the night the rain started sideways and the highway emptied like someone closed a valve. I was alone from midnight until 3, just the hum of the refrigerators and the moths battering the glass, and I started believing the quiet meant nothing was watching. That's when I broke Rule 4. Rule 4 says do not take the call on the wall phone if the display reads midnight. We don't have a wall phone, not a real one. There's a plastic jack plate by the ice chest, no handset, no cord. When the display went live and showed 4 zeros, it started ringing anyway. It rang like a payphone from a movie, that brassy bell that makes you feel late for something. I stared at it too long and that was my second mistake. Patterns, Marlene had said. Something likes patterns. The ring came steady, for beats, pause like a metronome with teeth. I reached toward the empty jack out of reflex, then caught myself and backed away. The ring cut off mid-chime and a woman's voice slid out of the ceiling speaker we use for weather alerts. She said my name. She said it the way my mother did when I was in trouble and she didn't want the neighbors to know. I swallowed and said nothing. The fluorescence flickered anyway. She asked me to come to the back door. She said she'd lost her card and couldn't pay. And please, it's raining, and I've been out here for hours. Rule 1 says never open the back door after 1:13. Rule 2 says if someone asks you to, you tell them to drive around to the pumps and you watch them through the glass. I checked the clock on the lottery machine. 1:09 a.m. Felt a little brave and told her to come around. I saw her pass under the camera a minute later. She wore a yellow raincoat like a kid in an old picture book. The kind that shines no matter how dim the light. She didn't track water on the mat. She didn't fog the glass when she breathed. She lifted a hand and waved at me through a reflection that didn't show her hand. I waved back because I am stupid when people are polite. Her mouth made the shape of my name again. The ceiling speaker crackled with static and whispered the same syllables a beat later, off by a hair, like an echo pretending to be a voice. I pointed to the pump and she nodded, but she didn't move. She tapped the glass with one knuckle once, twice, 3 times, pause, and then once more. 4. I felt the cold climb my legs like a slow flood. The price sign out by the road flicked from $3.49 to $0 to $3.49 again without the wind moving it. The receipt printer spat 3 blank inches and stopped. The rain made no sound. I told myself I hadn't broken any rule yet. Then I did. I said my name aloud, just to prove her mouth wasn't shaping it right. The speaker said it with me perfectly this time, and the lights went to half power. She smiled with small, neat teeth, and the smile did not reach her eyes. She lifted her hand again and made a small circle in the air, as if drawing a coin from behind a child's ear. The pump display lit up on its own, numbers climbing though the nozzle still hung in place. For cents, 8, 12, 16. I grabbed the shutoff, hit it again. Nothing. The numbers rolled like a slot machine stuck on quarters. I ran to the breaker box and flipped the handle down so hard my knuckles bled. The numbers kept counting. She mouthed one more word I could not hear. The speaker translated, "Open." I looked at the back hallway. The clock rolled to 1:13. Something knocked from inside the locked bathroom 4 times. I didn't move. The bathroom knob ticked once like a watch catching. The yellow raincoat woman turned her head toward the hallway without turning her shoulders, as if the hinge were somewhere above her collarbone. "Open." The ceiling said again, softer, closer, like breath on the shell of my ear. The index card waited in the till like a lifeline. Rule 1. Do not open the back door after 1:13. The bathroom wasn't the back door. But the card had a bathroom rule too. If it closes itself, prop it open and don't look in the mirror. The knob ticked again. I grabbed the wooden wedge we use for deliveries and walked down the hall, counting prime numbers under my breath to jag the rhythm. 2, 3, 5, 7, trying not to notice the way the fluorescent hum matched my steps every 4th beat. When my hand touched the bathroom door, something on the other side set its palm flat against mine through the wood. The pressure wasn't strong. It was expectant. I slid the wedge under the jamb, turned the handle and pushed. The door opened slowly against a weight that didn't exist. The fan was off. The mirror wore condensation like a veil. I did not look at it. I propped the door wide, hit the fan switch, and stepped back until the hall air moved in my shirt. The knock stopped. Out front, the pump numbers froze at $4.04. The woman in yellow did not breathe, but her hood turned toward me like a flower finding the sun. "Open," the speaker breathed again, only now it used the word like a lever, prying. "Back door," I said, "or bathroom?" Silence held just long enough to feel like an answer. Then the back corridor cooled, and the exit bar glowed faint green as if someone's thumb pressed it from outside. I didn't go to the door. Instead I walked to the counter, turned on the coffee grinder, and fed it beans we didn't need ground. The motor's chew filled the aisles with a warm, stupid noise. I stacked the 5-cent lighters by the register in ugly prime number piles. 2, 3, 5, 7, ruining the grid I'd made earlier. I counted under my breath in a rhythm with no symmetry. The pump display dimmed to $0 and then went dead. The woman's smile narrowed, a crease that looked carved, and the raincoat lost a little of its shine, like stage light on old varnish. She lifted her hand and tapped once. Just once. The bathroom fan clicked to high and blew the smell of wet pennies out into the store. In the ceiling speaker, the voice tried my name again and came up empty, air around a missing tooth. I looked at the index card and thought about what wasn't written, all the accidents that made the list. Someone had learned about the blank receipts by watching numbers that wouldn't stop. Someone had propped that bathroom open after a hand pressed theirs through the door. Marlene hadn't made the rules. She'd survived them long enough to copy the shape. I reached under the counter for the Sharpie and the stack of old lotto slips we use when the receipt paper jams. The woman in yellow watched me write. I wrote a new line beneath the old ones. If the pump counts by 4s, break the song. Then I set the grinder to pulse on and off, in ugly 7s until the tone in the room lost its shape. The ceiling speaker hissed like a match blown out. The back door bar cooled to black. She tried the glass again, this time with 5 taps, quick, bright, wrong. I didn't answer and I didn't wave. She lowered her hand and tilted her head as if listening to a train on a distant track. A semi roared by on the highway then, the first engine since midnight, horn moaning once like a ship through fog. The yellow hood turned toward it, her whole face angling like a compass needle hungry. The truck's wake pushed water across the lot and sent a wave against the curb. For a second, the parking spot in front of Pump 3 held a perfect reflection of her. But it was wrong by a half second, still smiling after her mouth had gone flat. That was the first time I let myself feel afraid of what would happen if I did nothing. So I did something small and human. I wrote another line. If someone at the glass mouth's open, answer with no in your head and yes with your hands. I lifted a cup, held it up, pointed to the coffee, and gave her the we're closed shrug every clerk knows. Then I set it by the door on the inside mat and walked away. The camera caught what my eyes didn't. She didn't bend to pick it up, but the cup slid 2 inches toward the glass and stopped like a dog sitting. She watched it a long time. Then her hood twitched, and she looked past me into the store at the drink coolers where the light had begun to strobe. That strobe hides people sometimes. That's another thing the card doesn't say. On the 4th flash, a man stood in the beer cave doorway who had not been there before. Tall, lean, baseball cap, rain on his shoulders like glitter. He smiled through the glass at me and tapped his finger once on the door frame. "Kiddo," he mouthed. Marlene's rule said not to greet the man who calls you kiddo after midnight. I didn't. He raised 2 fingers like a scout and nodded toward the back hallway, casual as an uncle at a barbecue, then slid sideways into the strobe and was gone. The ceiling speaker went dead with a pop. The yellow raincoat stopped moving. I shut the grinder, dumped the coffee, and added a line. "If you break one, make noise. And move."